Most site meetings aren't caused by poor quality of information. The right decision a lot of times arrives just a little bit too late. And once construction starts moving, it doesn't wait for your calendar or your availability. It waits for certainty. Let me show you what I mean and how to fix it. A principal at a design firm told me this one time about a very regular run of the mill project which went completely off the rails because of one simple, seemingly standard, ordinary phone call. There was a contractor who called up from the site. He said that there are two ways of doing this, option A and option B. Which one do you want me to do? And the project manager wasn't 100% sure. Plus, he was tied up in another meeting, as so often happens. And he said, don't do anything yet. I'll come by this afternoon. On the surface, that sounds like a perfectly reasonable, perfectly rational answer. But there was another project that he was working on, and that suddenly became urgent. So, what did he do? Moved the site visit to another morning. And meanwhile, the contractor looked around. He saw labor is already on site, other trades are waiting, materials have already arrived. So, let's take the best decision with all the information that we have and continue with it. By the time the project manager realized that he had to go over there, reached the site, looked at it, the work was already complete. And then he found that unfortunately it wasn't what the design team had intended. When the principal told me the story, he said something that I've not quite forgotten. He said nobody made a bad decision, they just couldn't wait any longer, which is sounds rational. But I think that's exactly where a lot of firms misunderstand site communication because this is not a communication problem. Hear me out. It's a timing of communication problem. Look, the right people were known who the decision had to be communicated to, from whom it had to come. The right information was available, right? There was no confusion about it. The right decision would also have been made. It simply did not arrive on time, which led somebody else to act. That's a very different problem. That's a decision latency problem or a communication latency problem. Most project managers aren't responsible for just one project in our business. They're managing what? Three projects at the same time? Five, six, seven, all at the same time? And one side would be 4 minutes away, one side would be 40 minutes away. One could be on the other side of the city or in one of the twin cities. It might be in St. Louis. Another might take 2 hours to get there because of the traffic. At the same time, there are multiple clients which have to be managed for multiple projects. They're requesting meetings. They need updates. Consultants need answers. Vendors are waiting for approvals, or new vendors have to be empaneled. And commercial decisions keep on piling up. Eventually, one project becomes urgent. Everything else gets pushed back. Construction, however, for the others does not. There'll be another call that you'll get from a contractor. He'll say, can we proceed? The natural response is always what? Don't do anything till I get there. But construction rarely, if ever, has the luxury of waiting. And somebody eventually has to make a decision. And when the right decision hasn't arrived, the project creates one itself, usually through assumptions. The challenges exist everywhere, although it looks slightly different depending on where you work. In Southeast Asia, usually traffic and geography is the biggest constraint. One project manager might be expected to cover multiple sites across nearby cities, but different cities. And traffic is going to make frequent, daily, alternate day, weekly visits also sometimes unrealistic. In parts of Middle East, language becomes a challenge. Clients, consultants, contractors, subcontractors, they all might be speaking in a slightly different language, even if every single one of them is highly capable and high intent and the strong technical background. Small misunderstandings, what's going to happen? They will accumulate along the way. In North America, organizational scale itself creates a delay. Large consultant teams are going to be there, and specialized trades are going to be there, and distributed decision making is going to be there, which means that information is going to exist, but it might be siloed, and consequently, reaching the right person quickly, traversing all of these silos and verticals, is going to become a real challenge. Different region, different constraints. However, the outcome is unfortunately the same: delays, i.e., communication latency. The right decision arrives after construction has already moved forward. And that's where the real cost begins. The expensive part isn't simply fixing the incorrect work. That's life, it happens. The real problem is everything that follows. One trade has to return, another has to stop, or pause, or wait on site. Materials have to be reordered potentially. Drawings might be revised. Schedules have to be shifted. Dependencies suddenly begin stacking on top of one another. And what looked like an incorrect decision suddenly becomes week of unnecessary work, rework, or coordination. And it's not because anybody lacked competence. Everyone was competent, everyone was experienced, but it was because certainty arrived way too late. That's exactly how we think about it at Immaculate Platform. The goal is not communicating more, it's reducing the time between an issue being found, being discovered, and ability to take a decision, which means you have to connect the site where the actual work is happening all the way to the back end office systems. Because construction will not wait for a meeting, it will not wait for a calendar, it will wait only for certainty. And if certainty is going to arrive too late, the project will create, like I said, a version of its own certainty through some unfounded assumptions. So let's go back to the story that we started with, the contractor's phone call, delayed site visit, reasonable assumption, completed work. And imagine how it would work in a mature system with the same situation like Immaculate. The contractor uploads the photos immediately. Project manager reviews the issue without traveling to the site. Suddenly, the design intent becomes visible. The problem becomes visible. The right people are informed and it's made visible to them. A decision is made while the contractor is still waiting on site, not the next morning after the work has been completed, but there and then. Do you think the outcome would have been different? Of course, it would have been, right? Because most site mistakes, they don't happen when people don't know what to do. They happen because somebody has to act before certainty can put up its pants and arrive. And that's the organizational problem worth solving. If you're interested in building an operating system for the entire workflow, for the entire company, that shortens the distance between the site, the office, the people making the decisions, consider subscribing. Every week, we explore the operating principles that help architectural and interior design firms build businesses where better decisions happen faster, not just more often. Everything you've seen in this video and will continue to see as part of videos in this series is based on principles that we've spent years building into the Immaculate Platform. If you'd like to experience them inside an operating system built ground up purely for design and architecture firms, start your free trial today at immaculate.co.in/trial. Thank you.